There we go. So you kind of see the presenters there at the top.
Okay, yeah, so you can see up there in the right, that's me, Brett Stimpson. I'm with a rep agency called Rolston Hogstrom. We have a contract for Werner for a number of states in the Midwest. Dan Laurx has been with WernerCo for a number of years. He's their sales trainer extraordinaire. So we will take you through our safety presentation. So here's a little bit of our agenda, what we're going to cover in advance of the OSHA stand down. For those of you who are not familiar with exactly what the stand down is, OSHA started this about 4 years ago. Basically what they're doing is asking many companies and job sites to take time out during the week of May 8th through the 12th, I believe, to focus on fall prevention. It can be in a number of areas. So a lot of companies are doing training, whether it be ladder safety, fall protection, scaffold, lifts, a number of different areas. So what we're going to cover today is basically ladder safety, how we make ladders versus how they're used, the most common OSHA violations, how do we make ladders safer, design changes, training that we have available, and then we'll go through some resources that we have for stand down. Okay, so who exactly are we? WernerCo is actually climbing equipment. We are job site storage. We are fall protection or van and truck storage. We also do scaffold, and we do some material handling. Okay, so if you've never seen this before, OSHA 1926.10 subpart X is the section of OSHA code that actually covers ladders. So there's actually a bunch of information in there. Just so you know, also we manufacture our ladders to ANSI Standards.
I was going to say, just on that last point, we're the largest ladder manufacturer in the world. We manufacture our ladders to ANSI Standards. Pretty much so does everyone else. We're all following the same standards. We all make ladders that are durable and conform to the standards. The differences really safety-wise are how the ladders are used and in some cases a little bit how they're designed, which goes a long way with how the users are employing the ladders as well.
So ANSI stands for American National Standards Institute, and that's an organization that when we design and build and manufacture product, we have to send it out to them, and basically they test it and they give it their stamp of approval, which means that it's acceptable to be sold in the market. Okay. All right, so our ladder strategy is twofold. We want to design better ladders. We want to engineer out the hazards where possible, and we also want to make products that withstand job site abuse. We also want to take the OSHA information and kind of distill it down into relatable chunks. We also offer a lot of on-site and online training.
Yeah, that last point, the OSHA 1926-105 subpart X is 85 different sections. I've read through it. And you kind of imagine there's a lot of information there regarding ladders, regarding scaffolding, portable ladders, fixed ladders. There's just a lot of information there. It can be a little overwhelming. It's necessary to kind of distill it down, make it simpler for the people, simpler for the users to work more safely with ladders, because they're all manufactured to be as safe as possible. It's just how they're used. And so really, from Werner's standpoint, we want to try to engineer out a misuse of the ladders, and then we want to train and so that people will use the ladders more safely.
Yeah, and be aware too, this comes up quite regularly with contractors out there in the field. There can be some confusion sometimes about different practices as they relate to fixed ladders versus portable ladders. Werner as a company, we are not into fixed ladder systems, so those would be the ladder systems that are bolted to the side of a building in a factory or a plant. We are a portable ladder manufacturer, so all the products that we make fall under the OSHA guidelines of what they call portable ladders. So sometimes you'll see something different, and I have people ask me a question, and I'll say, okay, that doesn't apply to a step ladder or an extension ladder. That's something that applies to a fixed ladder. So make sure that you understand that distinction if you run into something that could be confusing like that. All right, so here's an excellent example of us trying to engineer out the hazard and come up with a better, safer design. This Podium Ladder actually came as a direct result of a large builder general contractor here in Chicago, and they were actually seeing so many unsafe practices and OSHA violations and accidents that they began telling subcontractors on their job that they didn't want them using ladders anymore. In fact, there's rumors they went as far as to actually take chain and actually lock up their ladders so that they couldn't use them on the job.
Brett, what's the number one way people misuse step ladders?
I would say reaching.
Reaching, yeah. Definitely reaching, not keeping the belt buckle within the rails. And I would say even, you know, and I've even seen it around here, and that's people stepping on the top of the ladder or the second rung down.
Yep,
you know,
exactly.
Which is inherently makes the ladder unstable, and that along with the reaching, you're right. I think the number one issues with step ladders.
Yeah, and that was a major issue for this company. So we met with them. They kind of helped us work on this. We came up with this design for the Podium. And as a result, you see a product that has a very big, wide, stable base in the center. If you're going to be working at a specific height for a number of time, it really cuts down on worker fatigue because it's more comfortable to stand on that large base as opposed to the individual step there. You also see the raised waist portion, which is designed to give you a better point of contact and better stability. It's actually curved. And then, of course, you've got a toe kick on the front. Might be hard to see in the photo, but the front of that on the base, the platform there's actually a raised section. You can actually feel that with your boot so that you know where you're at on the ladder and you're not beginning to overextend or slip your foot off the front of it.
Yeah. The main thing is we don't allow people now. We've engineered out standing really on top of the ladder because we've removed what the normal top of the ladder, which is 2 feet above generally the highest standing point, and we've removed that step in between. So we've kind of engineered out a lot of the misuse of step ladders just with this Podium design.
Yep. Okay, so how do people fall from a ladder? Do they lose their grip? They lose their balance? Did the ladder break? Did the ladder move on them? Were they struck by an object? Did they slip? Or did the surface they have the ladder set up on, was it slippery or something? So here's a little pie chart that breaks down where some of these accidents result from, and you can see the largest one there, 40%, is the ladder moved. So what that tells you is it's very important to secure your ladder to your work surface. You know, sometimes guys will use stakes and they'll drive it in down by the feet, and they'll try to secure the bottom that way, or at the top of the building, maybe with like an extension ladder. So anything you can do to try to make that ladder more secure to the surface that you're working against or near is going to definitely benefit you. Then you can see 24% was them slipping or missing a step. So that could be a situation where you're up on the ladder and you're coming down the ladder and you miss a step, and that causes you to fall. And then, of course, there's lost balance. Now, lost balance is a result of, you know, reaching on a ladder. If you're doing something improper on a ladder, that could cause you to lose your balance. Okay, so these are some best practices, some safety tips, if you will. Always make sure that you're facing the ladder when you're going up and down the ladder, okay? Always maintain 3 points of contact when you're going up and down. 3 points of contact, your feet would be one and your hands would be the other two. So you want to make sure that you have both hands on both of those rails when you're going up and down at all times. We want to make it easier for the user, so basically you want to have 2 people carry a ladder when possible. A lot of ladder damage out there comes from transport, so definitely use 2 people if the ladder is too big. Make sure that you have somebody hold the ladder while you're securing it, and then provide a means for raising and lowering tools on the ladder. So a great way to do that is put the tools into a bucket when you're stable where you're going to be working on the ladder, use a rope, and then pull the tools in that bucket up to you. Werner actually makes a blue utility bucket. You can find it on our website. It's fantastic for that. It's actually got attachment points on the front that it can actually drop into the top of most Werner products. So basically, that's what I tell people. Tie a rope to that, put your tools in there, pull it up, and secure that into the top of the step ladder.
Yeah. Right, you do a lot of ladder safety training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it typically a PowerPoint presentation? How do you do your ladder safety training?
It depends. If it's on a job site like I did yesterday, then I'll primarily just do it with a ladder, and I'll explain everything to them on the job site. Or if it's in a, more of a classroom setting, then we'll do PowerPoint presentation like we're doing right here.
Right, with a ladder as an example.
Yeah, you always use a ladder as an example. Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't do that in this medium.
And I thought I'd point out, because it is a little artificial, you're a hands-on guy. Exactly. You're having people climb a ladder, during presentation, making sure that they understand the 3 points of contact. So it's people learn by doing a lot of times. And this particular forum, obviously PowerPoint is the way to go, but typically you're having people get up and down on ladders and teaching them how to work with ladders.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, usually when I cover this section, I'll actually get up on the ladder and I'll explain to people, you want to think of your belt buckle as your paint should always be centered between the rails. So, and then I'll kind of show them, if you start to lean or reach too far to where that belt buckle is getting close to one of the outer rails, that's a dangerous activity. That's where you have to really be aware of what you're doing and try to curb that behavior. Basically what that's telling you is you need to get off the ladder and you need to reposition it closer to your work. Or if you're getting too high on the ladder and you feel the need to go above those, you're never supposed to use the top 2 steps on a step ladder or the top 3 rungs on an extension ladder. If you feel the need to do that, then obviously you need a bigger ladder. But again, it's the human condition. You're trained to get the job done no matter what it takes. So you have to really recognize that, and you have to basically make a mental shift and realize, okay, I'm starting to do something that's not safe here, so I need to reposition the ladder or get a bigger ladder. The last point here, provide lanyards. What we're talking about there is Werner actually makes what's called a tool lanyard. So some companies actually have a policy that they will not allow workers to put anything on the top of a ladder for fear that it could fall off when somebody's walking by and it could hit them in the head. So what's becoming more popular in the industry are these tool lanyards. If you haven't seen one, it's basically like a string. It's got a loop on one end. You put it over your wrist and cinch it down. The other end has a little carabiner, and you can attach that to your drill or whatever it is you're using. That way, if you're up working above your head and you were to drop that sawzall, it wouldn't go any further than 2 feet. Okay, so some ladder don'ts. These are things you should never do on a ladder. People do it all the time, though. I see it every time I'm on a job site. You should never use a ladder without inspecting it first. These pieces of equipment change, people sometimes even within the half hour on a job site. So you don't know who is using it last. Make sure that you inspect it, prior to getting on it and using it. Never tie ladders together like you see in the photo there. That's a great photo. I don't know where we found that, but never do something like that. Never stand on the braces of a step ladder. So the slats on the back of a ladder are called a horizontal. They're not load bearing. They're not for standing on. A lot of people do, unfortunately. If you have to have 2 people on a ladder, you want to get a twin step ladder that has steps on both sides. And the weight rating, if we say a twin step is rated for 300 pounds, it's 300 pounds for both sides of the ladder. Okay. Never use a ladder for other than its intended purpose. So this is one point where you never want to change a ladder or modify it or try to make it into a better product. OSHA specifically stipulates in their code that the products have to be used the way the manufacturer intended. And I do see a lot of job-made improvements out on job sites where people basically just come up with their own invention and they change the ladder itself. Well, you have to realize that OSHA doesn't want that. It also opens you to possible, liability because you were the person responsible for that. All right. So also never use a ladder that's damaged or broken. If it doesn't pass inspection, you need to tag it out and send it back to the office for them to destroy. Never leave tools on top of a ladder, and then never paint wooden ladders. Okay, so when you're inspecting a ladder, basically what I like to do, and if we were live, I would have a ladder in front of you. I would show you how to do this. But I start at the bottom, and I work my way up. The first one I look at is the first step of the step ladder. That's usually the one that takes the most abuse. As you can see in that top photo right there, that's very common for the first step to have a bend or a dent or a crease, or the aluminum step is actually cracked. Those little side braces, we call them like an edge brace down there at the bottom, or a step brace. It's very common to see those that are bent or damaged also. So that's going to compromise the strength of that step. So I look for that. As I go up, I check all the steps, make sure they're in good shape. Then I look down the backside, the horizontals. You know, the horizontals are going to take some damage. They're going to get beat up. But if you have a horizontal that's pushed in like 3 inches, then that's going to create a situation where that ladder is not even setting level to the ground. And basically, it's just unsafe to get on. I mean, I'm sure you all have seen it. You know what I'm talking about. Lopsided and it's wobbly, and it's just not even a good piece of equipment to start climbing on. Then I'll start checking the side rails. So on the side rails, looking for any signs of cracking or damage. When the fiberglass rails start to crack, it's a sign that the ladder has reached the end of its life. It's not going to heal itself. It's not going to get better, and it can't handle the weight load anymore. It's very common to see them on the outside of the rails where the spreader's attached. It's very common to see cracks from those rivets going up or down. Or if you're looking facing a step ladder at the very top, where that top connects in to those 2 rails up there, sometimes those will be broke. It's very common to see where people have tried to replace the hardware because the rivets broke out and they wanted to repair it. So if you find any of those things, I say tag it out, send it back to the shop, have them destroy it. And you also want to document it. You know, 2 things that OSHA is really big on is training, which you're doing today, and then documenting. So we have a form. Is it in here? I believe you have it.
No, the form isn't in there, but it's
okay. Well, if you Google Werner Ladder Inspection Form, it's the #1 search result that comes up. It's a PDF. It's the one that I use when I inspect ladders. You can basically fill that out and keep it on file. So if OSHA were to ever come out, or heaven forbid there's an accident and they start asking questions, to be able to tell them that you've done training and that you're documenting inspections, and you show them some of those forms, they're going to immediately calm down. They feel like they're dealing with people who are trying to do the right things. Okay, so portable ladder usage. You want to, set it up on the ground. You want to make sure that you're checking for overhead clearance, especially electrical hazards. You know, you're supposed to be at least 10 feet away from an electrical hazard. You want to make sure that you're using non-conductive ladders like a fiberglass, you know, when you're near electrical stuff. The aluminum ladders primarily are for, you know, painting and siding and a lot of those type of different applications. So you want to make sure that you raise the ladder carefully. If it's a big ladder, make sure you're using a couple of different people. Some of these ladders are pretty big. That's how you can hurt yourself. And then you want to make sure that for every 4 feet you go up, you pull the base out 1 foot. That's what we call the 4-to-1 ratio. And basically, you see the little picture there. That's going to give you the right angle against your work surface. You don't want to have it too steep where as you start to climb, it could fall back on you, or out too far to where when you get to the top, it puts too much downward pressure. It could kick out, especially if it's not secure or you're on a muddy or a dirty, slippery surface. So an easy way to do that, a little cheat sheet, there's even a picture on the side of most extension ladders that show you how to do this. If you look at the guy in the little picture there, if you stand with your feet at the base of the ladder and put your hands straight out, the palms should come down right on the rung in front of you. If that happens very naturally, then you probably have that correct 4-to-1 ratio. Okay? Okay, so this is a big one with OSHA. You need to make sure that you've got 3 rungs showing above the roof line. That picture to the right there, I've worked with OSHA guys before, and I asked them once, I said, what's the easiest thing for you guys to write tickets on? And they said this right here. They're like, anytime we want, we can just drive around and we could write 50 tickets in a couple hours, because we constantly see people who do not have 3 rungs showing above the roof line. Now, the reason that they're telling you to do that, and this is a very common principle with ladder safety, is we always want ladder in front of you. We want something in front of you to stabilize against. That's why we say with a step ladder, you never use the top 2 steps. An extension ladder, you never use the top 3 rungs. So the idea being in this picture, you're climbing to the top of that ladder. You're holding on to the top of that ladder with both hands when you step onto the roof. That's the safest way to make that transition.
You know, one thing about that also is sometimes, well, when I first started with ladders, I wasn't sure, what was it, 1 rung, 2 rungs, 4 rungs? You know, how many rungs do you have to have above it? You know, you want about 3 feet above. So the rule of thumb is that on an extension ladder, you can't climb, you're not supposed to climb on the top 3 rungs. So you want those rungs above the roof line so that you will not step on them. So you will then carefully grab the ladder and then step on the 4th rung down. So it's an easy way for me to remember. You can't stand on the top 3 rungs of an extension ladder, so those are the rungs you want to be protruding above the roof line when you're trying to egress onto a roof.
Yep, and then another big one is make sure that you never try to move or reposition an extension ladder from the roof. There's a real danger in doing that because what will happen is if you pull on the top of that ladder, you could disengage the lock assembly, and then you could go to come off that roof, get on the ladder, and it will collapse all the way down on you. So never try to adjust that ladder from the top of it. It's always got to be adjusted from the bottom. Make sure that, again, you're using both hands. 3 points of contact when you're going up and down a ladder like that. And then, of course, never overload a ladder. Okay, so this is a great picture. I can tell you that I get a lot of phone calls where people tell me that they would like me to come out and do a ladder safety training for their company because there's been an accident. And literally, and I'm not joking, literally most of the time the conversation that goes like this. They'll call me and say, we'd like to see if you're available to come up for a ladder safety training. Unfortunately, we had a worker. He was on a ladder. He was reaching. They actually say he was reaching, and he fell off the ladder. And then, of course, you know, everything else ensues. So this is the most dangerous activity that you can do on a ladder is reaching. So if you can train yourself to not do that, then you'll probably not be a statistic for OSHA when it comes to ladder accidents. You have to feel yourself starting to do it, right? Because it can happen so naturally. That's what we call the human condition. The human condition says that you're not designed to work safe. You're designed to get the job done. So it's very easy to have that crossover point where you just slip into this mode and you start reaching to do what you need to do. So you have to really be aware of what you're doing, and you have to kind of be mentally aware, and then you have to kind of stop yourself and say, hey, I've got to move the ladder, or I've got to get a bigger ladder. Okay, so got a couple of knowledge checks here with some pictures. You guys can see if you can tell us what's wrong with them. All right, so what is wrong with this picture? I'm sure you guys can tell exactly what it is. Basically, they were overreaching. They were
Those guys were standing on the top of the step ladder.
Yeah, so the one that I like is the picture to the left there. You see the guy who's standing on the top of the ladder? There's already a bigger ladder right behind him. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about changing your mental attitude to where you're working safer. And this guy already has the product right there to work safer. And he's just not thinking about it. It's just not coming to mind for him. All right, so what's wrong with this picture? The user's overreaching, too close to an electrical hazard, and the ladder's not secure. I'll come up with a different method than having someone hold it. We see that a lot in photos, having someone hold the ladder. That's not really an approved method for securing a ladder.
Yeah, at least they're trying.
They are trying.
It's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. If that's all you have, then by all means have someone hold the ladder, but please come up with something safer. All right. So this is an interesting photo. So not only should this person not be at the top of the ladder, but given that there's a very significant fall to the side of that worker, they should also be tied off with fall protection. So they should have an anchor point set up above their head. They should be wearing a 5-point adjustable harness, and they should have a lanyard or a retractable attached to them so that even if they did fall off the ladder standing at the proper step, that they did not fall down into that open area. All right, so this we don't see as much, but it's not to say that it doesn't take place. So this is where people go and basically make their own setup. This is extremely wrong. This is something an OSHA person would throw a fit about. They would probably fine you immediately. this is the kind of stuff you definitely do not want to do, because not only are you going to hurt yourself, but you're going to call a lot of unwanted attention to your company. So,
you know, they do have the 2x4 inside the barrel, keeping it from collapsing. Now,
that's a good point. That's a good point, Dan. So as Dan points out, a lot of field engineering went into this, staging this homemade scaffold setup. All right, so here's another one. So in this picture, the ladder is not being used for its intended purpose, and they also have not secured it.
Yeah, the bottom rung is not intended to take the weight of the ladder and the person on the ladder. So that is why it's not being used for its intended purpose.
So it's hard for me to hear feedback from you all, but I wonder if you're familiar with this video. It's kind of famous in the industry. A lot of safety people and safety training professionals are familiar with this. This is actually an incident where on this QVC shopping channel, they were highlighting this product. It was a telescoping ladder, and this individual on the ladder was someone that worked for QVC. I think he was like a maintenance guy or something, and they had him come out and demonstrate this ladder. If you're not familiar with this, it is a live video. Is it still on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. I like to show this this video when I do safety training, and it's just because there's it's a little shocking, because those of you who have seen it, or you know, you can Google it and you can find, you just do QVC ladder fall, and the person on his way down falls off the ladder. So you're able to actually use this to demonstrate a number of different points about how to use a ladder, and you know, did he set it up properly? Actually, no, it's a little bit the base a little bit too close to the wall. So as he's coming down, it's harder for his feet to catch the rungs. He also is not maintaining 3 points of contact because he's holding something in his hands as he's going up, and as he's going down, he's not paying attention. He wasn't trained, and this person falls from about 3 feet above the ground, and he hits the ground, and it's a little jarring. And then I always ask people, well, you know, what did this guy do wrong? What could he have done better? And so it's a good way to talk through the points of how to safely use a ladder. And then I ask them, you know, so what do you think happened to him? They say, oh, well, he got a big bump, you know, he walked off stage, or he got off stage.
It honestly did not look like that bad of a fall.
Right. He was falling from 3 feet.
He looked like he would recover from it.
Yeah. He died the next day.
Yeah, he hit his head, so he had a closed head injury. And in a situation like that, you know, there's a lot of things that you can break when you fall, and I've run across numerous people in the industry that tell me about broken arms, legs, shoulders. I mean, the most recent one that I did was for a concrete company in downtown Chicago. The guy broke his leg in 3 places because he fell off the top of an 8-foot step ladder. Unfortunately, if you hit your head, that's something that you could be dead in 24 hours from, and that's unfortunately what happened to this guy. And I'm sure there's people that have had much worse, much uglier falls than what this guy encountered. But you know, that's why we teach this stuff, and that's why we want people to be safe out there, because unfortunately it can go very badly very quickly, and it can be fatal.
Yeah, this video does a good job of just making people think, you know, because the next time they climb a ladder, about staying centered, setting it up properly, 3 points of contact, and everything else. So.
I think the most important point you made, Dan, is that 4-to-1 ratio, because it does look in the photo there like he's got that ladder too steep. And I think what happened was, as he was coming down the ladder, he missed a rung with his foot, and that's how he fell. So had he had the proper angle on it, there would have been more ladder underneath him. He would have caught it with his foot on the way down. Mm-hmm. All right. So what are the top 10 serious, some of them that can cause death and serious physical harm, OSHA violations for 2016? So here's some possibilities: ladders, electrical, you know, scaffolding, fall protection, hazard communication, lockout, tagout. So what do you guys think is, you know, some of the top ones? Well, here they are. So in the blue on the left, you have the serious violations, and you can see number 1 there is fall protection. Ladders is number 6. So 2,300 violations they wrote for ladder misuse or improper use in 2016. So you can see that it's definitely something serious that they're out there, taking notice of and looking for.
Yeah, what I like to point out here also is that you don't see ladders as much on the willful end of it. On the right side, the willful violations. It's more ladder usage. They did not wasn't a willful act by the company. It's just people just did not know or due to the human condition just weren't using the ladders properly. That's just in my mind calls out the need for training.
Yep. All right, so here is the National Safety Standdown that's put on by OSHA. So we did this in 2016. We did 107 events. We try to capture the number of people that are at these events. It probably came out to around 18,000. And this year, for 2017, we're scheduled to do 200 events, upwards of 30,000 people trained. So we primarily provide ladder safety training and fall protection training. The fall protection training that we provide is what's called user awareness. We spend some time there and we go through the harness, the features, the benefits, how it should be worn properly. We go through what happens in a fall. We go through the connecting devices, the lanyards, the retractables, and we go through anchor points and anchor devices. So if you have not scheduled training for Standdown, maybe a great event for you to get involved in, you can actually go to the OSHA website and you can actually get a certificate of completion saying that you were a participant in the OSHA Standdown. So here's some photos from different events that we did. Down there in the bottom far left, the fat bald guy, that's yours truly. One of the events that I did. For a local company here in Chicago.
And I just wanted to point out, these events don't have to be super huge and take a lot of time. These events can be a simple toolbox talk out on the job site on fall protection, ladder safety, scaffold safety, etc.
How long is your average presentation during Safety Standdown?
Like these ones in the photos where you see it looks like a large job site and we've got 100 people or so out there. A lot of times what they want is 20, 25 minutes tops. I usually cover the basics. I don't use any PowerPoint to, I do it all hands-on. I usually have a couple of ladders there and I'm showing and demonstrating as I'm doing it. So that's a typical job site one. So we have, for deliverables here, I guess I would say, for the Standdown training, we have on-site demonstrations that we can do. We also offer e-learning classes. Dan can maybe talk to that a little bit better. We have our WernerCo University that you can reach through the Werner website, right?
Mm-hmm. We do. So we do provide ladder safety training specifically, and we'll have fall protection safety training up there soon enough. But the number one e-learning course we provide is just called Ladder Safety. It's a 20-minute course, professionally done, and just takes you through the basics of the ladder safety, ladder inspection, and ladder usage. It is something that it's in our interest. We're the largest ladder manufacturer in the world. We want people to use ladders safely. We would like everyone to take this course. Even to the point where we're willing to share it with other companies' learning management systems, but you can always access it 24/7 on just the WernerCo website, and we're happy to share it. We just want people to be safe with ladders.
Yep, and then we also provide certified user training, and we also do product inspections. So that's one thing that I do for companies that I'm connected with. They'll ask me from time to time to come out and take a look at some of their ladders, and I'll fill out inspection forms, see if we find any that should be taken out of service, and then likewise with the fall protection gear. So I am trained as a competent person, so OSHA does require that you do a yearly or annual competent person inspection on your fall protection gear. So if you don't have anyone in your company that's trained as a competent person, I'm available to come out and help with that.
Fred, I'm going to throw you a softball here. So you're an end user specialist. You're a salesperson for Rolston Hogstrom. When you're conducting safety training, is it a sales presentation or is it safety training?
No, it's basically safety training. We take our safety training very seriously, so we really do not get into, we're not trying to push product or sell product when we're doing the safety training. When we do the safety training, it's all about safety. It's about worker safety. It's about providing, good safe practices for the companies that are using our products. Once the safety training is all done, if people have questions, maybe they like the product, they want pricing, any of that type of stuff, we can always connect them with some of our distributors after the fact. But while we're conducting training, we're very much big on, we're not trying to turn it into a sales pitch. A lot of people are turned off by that, and we understand that, and that's not the time to sell our products. So at that point, we're talking about safety. We can always sell stuff later if people are interested. We can connect them with our distributors who actually, warehouse and take POs and deliver product. I believe that's it. All right, so hopefully you all realize the biggest takeaway was do not reach. Do not reach on a ladder.
All right, well, I'd like to thank both presenters. Let me check the chat very quickly here and see if we have any questions come in. All right, I do have a question. Can the steps of a ladder be replaced?
The actual steps cannot.
Okay. Can any parts of a ladder be replaced economically, or is it just better to replace the ladder?
There are a few replacement parts that are available on our website and in the back of our catalogs. To be honest, though, a lot of companies, the trend that I'm seeing is they are not messing around with repairing ladders, because it does open you a little bit to liability, because then the question is who did the repair,
Yep.
What was their training. So I have seen repairs that people have done and the repair was not well done. So that creates a more dangerous situation, like they put replacement feet on a ladder and they put them on crooked.
Okay.
So, then I come in and I say, well, the ladder should be taken out of service, and they're really proud of themselves that they repaired that ladder. So
that is a good question, and we get that all the time.
Yep.
We actually do have one component of a ladder which we actually replace all the time, and that is the label. Okay, and as you know, you cannot climb a ladder. OSHA says you can't climb a ladder unless you know that that ladder will support your weight, and of course everything that you're carrying as well. So you have to know the capacity of the ladder, the rating of the ladder, whether it's 1A, 1AA, or what. So if the ladder does not have a label on it, which tells you what the capacity of the ladder is, you cannot climb it. So those are replaceable. We actually do offer those. I think they are $2 or something. So if you do know the capacity of the ladder and want to relabel the ladder, we have those available.
yeah, the other thing I always like to point out while we're on that, so this isn't 100%, but just use this as a general rule of thumb. You guys are doing this for a living. Pro-grade product is going to be yellow ladders and orange ladders. And our lineup, orange is going to be 300 pounds. Yellow is going to be 375. Some of our competitors follow a similar color scheme. The reason I point that out, though, is because, we have lower weight-rated ladders which are designed for home center use. So they're typically green or red or blue. And sometimes people buy those products at a home center and they find themselves onto a contracting job site. Those products are really more designed for changing light bulbs and putting up pictures. The orange and the yellow ladders are meant to be beat on 8 hours a day, every day, and hold up for, a good 5 to 10 years. So different product. The pro-grade product has more bracing. A lot more goes into it. We know that it's going to be abused, so you're better off buying that product.
Very good. Well, before we close out our webinar, I did want to mention that we'll be sending out an email with a link so you can replay the webinar, in addition to resources from OSHA, CPWR, Construction Safety Council, and of course the wonderful resources available on Werner's website. Also wanted to point out that there's a significant date, in addition to OSHA's Standdown for fall prevention and construction. General industry companies are required to train their employees in fall protection and ladder safety by May 17th of this year. So OSHA reworked its walking working surfaces standard for general industry recently, and that training deadline is coming up. So please feel free to reach out to these two gentlemen who have provided an excellent presentation, or to Corkill Safety Services. And with that, we will close out our webinar. Thank you so much for attending.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.